January 24th, 1961. On this day, a B-52 bomber was passing over North Carolina carrying two nuclear bombs when, all of a sudden, the pilot lost control of the plane, dropping its two bombs by accident. The first bomb deployed a parachute and ended up landing safely. However, the second didn't. It began its free fall from 5,000 feet, and when it was later discovered, it would reveal that just one safety switch prevented the United States from accidentally nuking itself. But what if it did detonate? What would its effects be on life itself and on the environment? That's the question that we hope to answer today.
Now that a bomb has exploded, there is radiation everywhere, making exposure to it pretty much inevitable. So what effect would that have on our cells, more specifically, healthy cells? Optimally, when the radiation goes to the cell, it will go through without damaging the DNA. Or if it does damage the DNA ends up repairing itself. However, there is a chance that it can damage the DNA and no repairing happens, which causes your cell to undergo apoptosis, or if anyone forgot what that means, it's a programmed cell death. The way that this is caused is complicated, so we dumbed it down. First, the ionizing radiation damages the DNA, like this. So think of it as a rock smashing a window, but the radiation is the rock, causing parts of the DNA to break off, and this sets off an alarm inside the cell. There is a specialized thing in the cell called ATM, or ataxia telangiectasia mutated, and it picks up the alarm, relaying the message to something called P53, a tumor suppressant protein, which is probably self-explanatory what that is. The P53 then stabilizes, which makes it accumulate in the cell. The buildup of the P53 is like a signal being sent out into the cell, and it causes two more things. First, when the P53 starts accumulating, it uses transcription to make the overdrive production of something called BAX, which causes apoptosis. Then the P53 also makes things called CDK inhibitors, which stop the activity of things called CDK. CDK are things that progresses the cell cycle, so inhibiting them basically puts the cell cycle to a screeching halt by stopping the cell from replicating, something pretty good to do with the damaged DNA.
When you think of radiation damage, you probably think of genes, which is what I'm going to talk about. When the particles of radiation hit the DNA, it can break bonds that hold DNA together, causing the strand to break. This can cause incorrect pairing, cell death, and cancer. But elaborating on incorrect pairing, this can affect transcription and translation. If you forgot what this is, it's the process in which cells make protein. Proteins are vital for many things in a cell. For example, catalyzing reactions and structural support. But they still do more. This is also why it's bad for them to be mutated, because if a vital component of a cell is compromised, it won't have a good result. Transcription decodes the message of DNA and relays it to make a protein. Let's say that there is a translator at a doctor's appointment for someone who doesn't speak English. If the person there is dishonest about what the patient is saying, then they'll get the wrong medicine. Transcription has a dishonest transcription of it, and when it's translated, it has the wrong information. So it gives bad medicine, which is a misfolded protein. Sometimes, these proteins can turn into a specific misfolded protein called prions. Prions are different, and are like the zombie apocalypse of the body, as just one prion can end up killing. Prions are different because they are infectious and misfold other proteins, making more prions. They end up building up in the brain, misfolding the brain's proteins. This neurodegenerative disorder ends up destroying the brain. Fortunately for us, it's rare in humans.
I'm sure you've at least heard about Chernobyl babies. I'm going to explain why that happens. Earlier, we discussed how a cell's DNA can be damaged, and the same goes for reproductive cells, which will just be referred to as gametes. When the radiation hits the cell, the foundation of genes that will support their life and that of generations to come will be a shaky foundation. This means the offspring can develop genetic disorders and a higher chance of cancer. And also, if you know anything about chromosomes, you know that it has to be exactly 46, which is a fragile blueprint for your life. And just like any blueprint, a building won't be stable if there are mistakes. The radiation can delete chromosomes, duplicate inversion, which can cause DNA to be lost, and translocation, where one part of one chromosome attaches to the other part of another chromosome. This is pretty major, seeing that a huge amount of DNA in which you will be made is damaged, but it can also damage individual DNA. This DNA may have point or frameshift mutations, which are this.
Now, this entire video has basically worked up to this point. How does radiation affect organ systems? Just keep in mind that everything, skin, bone, muscles, are a lot of cells being damaged. Assuming you're close to ground zero and have a high dose of radiation, you can attain acute radiation syndrome, or ARS. This is an effect of many of your cells dying, and includes nausea, vomiting, and fatigue. The skin is affected in the same way as a burn, as both have cells dying. Radiation leaves redness, bleeding, sores, and burns on the skin. The circulatory system is also affected, and at the same time the immune system, because white blood cells are killed, leaving vulnerability to infections. Meanwhile, you also suffer neurological damage too, such as vision, speech, and memory problems. Also, your bones become more frail and susceptible to fracture. The bone marrow is also affected, and bone marrow is where blood cells are made, which isn't very good. And for anyone questioning why cells dying is so deadly when there are more uninjured cells, let me put it like this. Imagine a bridge made of pillars of bricks. Now, one by one, each of these bricks are taken out. At first, this bridge will stay stable, but soon, there will be so many bricks gone that just the ones that are still there aren't enough, leading to the collapse of the bridge. Now, in the body, it doesn't have enough time to repair this because it's also sudden. Sometimes, all the bricks being taken out of the body is too much, leading to death. Thanks for watching. That was a bit morbid, but I'll leave the sources in the description. Just wish me good luck in grading.